The world is full of tours. But you don't choose a Toyota truck to follow the beaten path. You choose it to find the places in between. The detours, where each adventure pulls you toward the next. And wrong turns turn out right. So why would you ever take a tour when you could take a detour? Toyota Trucks.
If you haven't signed up for it yet, head on over to unforgottenpod.com to sign up for our newsletter. We have a totally free version where we share links to each episode along with photos, case files, and more. We also have a premium version where you can get episodes early and ad-free. That's unforgottenpod.com. It's January 26, 2021, and it's been about a month and a half since Christopher Whiteley's body was found in the woods outside Lipan. The Hood County Sheriff's Office has just closed its case, although we still don't really know what happened to Christopher in the woods that morning.
At that point, I was like, okay, we got to look at this.
That's Charlie Scudder again. Digging in, he was about to uncover how the investigation into one man's death collided with a moment of extraordinary chaos, and how all the controversy may have undermined the search for truth and the search for a killer. From Free Range Productions, in association with the Dallas Morning News, this is Season 4 of The Unforgotten, Kill Site. I'm your host, Wes Ferguson, and this is Episode 4, Falsehoods and Chaos. Charlie's filing all these requests for public records so he can get his hands on the case files, the autopsy, and the other documents he needs to try to find out what really happened to Christopher. He talks to Christopher's family members, and he tries to speak with Christopher's girlfriend, Tyler, who was with him the night before he disappeared.
I also started reading as much as I could about mountain lions. And I learned really quickly a couple big things about mountain lions, which also made it weirder and weirder and weirder.
So I know I've mentioned a few times that there has never been a fatal mountain lion attack on a human in Texas history, and that's very true, but it's not outside the realm of possibility. If you go back over the last 100 years across the entire United States, but mostly out west, cougars have killed 20 or 30 people.
Mountain lion attacks on people are extremely rare, right? Like, it just doesn't happen.
This is Jonah Evans for the Texas Parks and Wildlife Department, the same guy you heard from in the last episode. He was interviewed by Charlie for the Dallas Morning News.
Now, it's very common for law enforcement to send me things like, hey, this person says a mountain lion killed their dog. Do you think that happened? We've had 2 situations in the state since I've been with the state where we've had confirmed mountain lion attacks on people. Both were in Big Bend National Park. One was a very old, sick mountain lion, an old female that was starving and jumped out in a campground and attacked a 4-year-old boy. The dad fought it off, and boy got some injuries, had to get some stitches on his face, maybe like 20 stitches. He got cut up. They went in and, hunted down the mountain lion and killed it. Another one was an ultra runner a couple years later, a female ultra runner running with a group of people, and had a mountain lion kind of jump out. And she fought it off with her friends. They finished their, 100-mile run, reported it, refused any medical care, and went home. And just, apparently she's ultra running and fighting off mountain lions were all in a day's work for whoever this was. I mean, whoever that is, good luck to the mugger that tries to jump out,
Right. Why do you think we are, as a culture, I guess, so fascinated by big predators like this?
It could be evolutionary. It could be that, humans evolved with big predators, and big things with teeth are scary and they can eat you. And there's things like tigers and other kinds of, large predators that have eaten people for a long time. And so I think it's just about basic survival. But keep in mind, we tend to overemphasize the threat of large predators. More people are killed by bee stings by orders of magnitude than are killed by mountain lions. The other thing I will touch on is we don't have any record of a mountain lion ever in Hood County.
I'm sure you're aware of this by now, but Hood County is where the sheriff's office said Christopher was mauled to death by a mountain lion.
Now, mountain lions can travel really long distances. It's certainly possible for one to turn up there. If I had evaluated this whole scene in the middle of a county that had 200 lions in it, I would have come to the exact same conclusion just as quickly as I came to this conclusion. But it's also important to note that on top of everything else, there's this fact that we've had no records of confirmed mountain lions there.
This is pretty controversial, actually. So many folks like you or me think we've seen a mountain lion in the woods or a field or wherever, and then we call Parks and Wildlife and they say it doesn't count unless we can prove it. It kind of ruffles people's feathers, but there's a good reason for Parks and Wildlife to be so particular.
In my job, everybody who thinks they saw a mountain lion in the state calls me, right? So my phone's ringing all the time. I think I saw a mountain lion. If I ask if they got a photo and they say, oh yeah, I have a photo of it, I'll send it to you. 90% of the time it's a house cat. 10% of the time it's a domestic dog. 1% of the time is it a mountain lion. And so given that, when someone calls and says, I saw a mountain lion and I don't have a photo, what do I do with that? Right? All I can say is given the accuracy rate from the rest of the public, I don't know if this is accurate or not. But what I do know is if I start digging around and asking people in my town if they think they've seen a mountain lion, if they know someone who's seen a mountain lion, I will quickly be able to build up a big, long list of people who think they've seen mountain lions. And that's why we are very careful to write down confirmed sightings. I mean, everybody has trail cameras up for deer hunting now. We get so many reports from deer cameras and things like that. So that's really made a big difference in our ability to track the distribution of this animal. But I just want that to be clear that I do not consider anecdotal reports as much in the way of evidence.
Speaking of that, so this was all happening when that confirmed sighting was found in Rowlett.
Yeah.
Rowlett is a suburb in Dallas County, right on the shores of Lake Ray Hubbard, and it would have nothing to do with Christopher Whiteley's case if the town hadn't been in the news right before he died.
Dallas County had an extremely rare visitor last week, but it's the kind of visitor that honestly would maybe give some of you the chills.
On a Sunday night in late November, a security camera at a house in Rowlett captured video of a cat walking near the lake. This time, though, it wasn't a house cat. They had a long tail dragging the ground, so it wasn't a bobcat either. This was a real mountain lion, the first confirmed lion sighting in Dallas County history. Parks and Wildlife employees even found mountain lion tracks to back up their suspicions. They said it was probably a juvenile male and was just passing through, maybe looking for feral hogs.
We wrote a story about that too.
Yeah.
It was a big deal.
Yeah, we had that Rowlett lion show up. It was all over the news, lots and lots of articles. It was definitely fresh in people's minds.
Could a mountain lion really travel 100 miles from Rowlett, where it was spotted, to Lipan, where Christopher was killed?
Not an unheard of distance for a lion to move if it's going in some crazy direction. Also, between that distance was Dallas and Fort Worth. It was 100 miles as the crow flies. For a mountain lion, it would be way longer to go around the cities.
But this mountain lion wasn't heading south or west to Lipan. It was making its way north, and it was about to make an even bigger splash.
I was in this car. I'm sitting out here, just taking a breather.
This is a resident of Princeton, Texas, named Jovan Humphrey, talking to local TV stations. Jovan is sitting in her car, out in her carport late at night. In the corner of her eye, she thinks she sees one of her kids.
I let the window down, like this. And when I turned over to look, I was like, that's other kids. I said, oh my God. I was in disbelief. And then it turned into shock.
It was the same mountain lion caught on the security camera in Rowlett. This time it was 25 miles north in Princeton, walking past Jovan's car.
Looking at me, and at this point I'm shrieking, and I was like, oh no. I said, oh my God.
Jovan calls a 911 dispatcher.
There is a mountain lion in my backyard. And she says, huh? Like that. And I said, there's a mountain lion in my backyard.
This is big news.
It's National Geographic in here sometime.
And it's literally in the headlines and on the airwaves right when Christopher is found, mauled to death. Could it have been the same mountain lion? That's what a lot of people were wondering, but it defies reason that a mountain lion would have crossed through the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex when it could have just kept heading north. And sure enough, a week later, a deer hunter shot that same mountain lion not too far from where Javon Humphrey saw it in her carport.
Hours drive away, hours and hours.
Not to mention the lack of evidence tying Christopher's death to a lion anyway.
There were no tracks. There was no scat. There was no evidence of predation on the body itself. So all of those things mounted up. Like, it just seemed odd that this could be a mountain lion.
Is it possible the sheriff's office just had big cats on the brain?
And I remember even at the time, like, this was in the months after the Tiger King documentary dropped. So I even thought, oh my God, I wonder if there's one of those tiger people out there and a tiger got loose. Like, I even went through that in my head and tried checking that out with wildlife experts and that kind of thing. And it's the same thing. Like, it just, nothing matched an animal attack of an animal that we know of.
And I'm sure in your reporting, you called the local sheriff's office. You were talking to these people that were standing by this, mountain lion attack theory or wild animal attack theory. What was the sense you got from them about how they were when they were standing by that theory?
They stuck by it.
Charlie was primarily talking with Johnny Rose, who worked for the sheriff's office at the time and was doing double duty as a lieutenant and the chief spokesman.
So it was a small department, kind of people did multiple things. And he was very frank about it, just like, no, yep, we're done. Like, no real excuse given, no real sense of, responsibility beyond, we checked it out, we're good. And part of that was that they had sent it to the Tarrant County Medical Examiner's office. So Hood County sent the body to Fort Worth to get an autopsy. And for a number of reasons, it was also very quickly wipe our hands, animal attack, cool, let's move on.
But what Charlie was starting to learn was that the Tarrant County Medical Examiner's office was dealing with its own set of crises.
It was in the middle of COVID. They were slammed. They were being accused of falsifying death reports.
The world is full of tours. But you don't choose a Toyota truck to follow the beaten path. You choose it to find the places in between. The detours, where each adventure pulls you toward the next. And wrong turns turn out right. So why would you ever take a tour when you could take a detour? Toyota Trucks.
Ugh, COVID.
Like, it's hard to, 5 years out, 6 years out, think about it that way. But like, the stress of COVID on the entire medical system, healthcare system, including medical examiner's office, was extreme. This was not long after the refrigerated trucks sent to help keep bodies stable left the medical examiner's office. They were slammed with an influx of bodies, both in Tarrant County and in surrounding counties. Things were slowed down tremendously because of the pandemic, because of protocols that were put in place. I think we talked about, like, one of those protocols included bleaching the bodies.
Now, we told you in episode 3 that Christopher's body was bleached, destroying any potential DNA evidence, but there's more context to that.
It also meant, donning PPE and not just masks, but like the full suits, right? To be able to go into an examination room for an autopsy. So that slowed things down. We all had to wear masks, and there were some people upset about that, but these are people who day in, day out had to constantly be donning and doffing these, PPE suits. It made them look like spacemen, And part of that was because the science of it, especially in early pandemic, we didn't know. right? Like, did we need to bleach it? I remember there was a time where we were bleaching our countertops, we were bleaching vegetables. Like, we didn't know what we needed to do and what was over the top. And the same was true in these kinds of labs, right? Like, we just didn't know what we needed to do or not do to be safe.
But COVID stress was just one problem, because at that exact moment, the medical examiner's office was dealing with multiple overlapping scandals. Just months before Christopher died, a deputy medical examiner had been suspended for falsifying autopsy reports.
So one of the big issues was that a deputy medical examiner named Dr. Mark Krause was suspended for misleading information and a bunch of different issues in autopsies dealing with homicides, omissions, lapses, basically manufacturing information, all kinds of problems, which meant there was a lot of these autopsies that went through. I think they looked at 41 cases and ended up finding issues in 27 of them.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that Krause did that basically falsified information. There were issues about attributing deaths to gunshot wounds that weren't related or vice versa. There were issues of attributing deaths to the wrong thing in homicide cases, right? Like, these are big errors.
27 out of 41 cases. And these weren't just any cases, these were homicides. People had gone to prison based on Dr. Krause's testimony.
Krause had been working there since 1978, right? He'd been there a really long time. He was kind of the right-hand man in the office to the chief medical examiner, a guy named Nizam Perwani. But Krause, the fact that this audit, again, in 2020, found these egregious errors, raised questions for defense attorneys about any homicide that he looked at over his entire career. If we can't trust that this was actually a homicide, like, what does this mean for all of the people that have been sent to prison over these years? So there were those kinds of egregious errors. It led to questions about how all autopsies were being done in the office. Again, this is one doctor in particular, but it led to a lot of scrutiny on the entire office.
As we've mentioned earlier, Hood County contracted with Tarrant County to perform all of its autopsies. But Tarrant County was also the go-to for a bunch of other counties throughout that part of Texas.
So that was another thing that was happening at that time, is that all of these other counties outside of Tarrant County were sending more and more bodies to this office. They're down a deputy medical examiner because Krause has been suspended at that time. Ultimately, he was fired.
The troubles didn't stop with Dr. Krause. His boss, the chief medical examiner, was also about to get swept up in a scandal of his own making.
The chief medical examiner at the time was Dr. Nizam Perwani. Very well respected in the field, long-time guy in Tarrant County. He did the autopsies for the people who died at the Branch Davidian compound in Waco back in the 90s. Like I said, had been there a very long time, was kind of a fixture.
So Dr. Perwani suspends and ultimately fires his number 2 deputy for a long string of errors and falsehoods. Then Dr. Perwani gets himself in trouble when testifying in the case of a Fort Worth murder suspect. This guy was accused of breaking into the house of an 89-year-old man, robbing him, binding him with duct tape, and allegedly killing him. But a judge found that Dr. Perwani made at least 10 false, inaccurate, or misleading statements during his testimony. The false testimony was so damaging, the murder case was overturned.
Perwani testified to this in court, and the judge had to say that it was false and misleading and led to a new trial for somebody who was on death row. And that, on top of the Krause scandal, ultimately forced Perwani out of his office. He ended up resigning in April of 2021, in part because of these scandals. So all of this stuff is happening at the exact same time that Christopher's body comes in.
So picture this: refrigerated trucks, COVID protocols, a deputy medical examiner suspended for falsifying reports, The chief medical examiner accused of false testimony, increased caseload from surrounding counties, and into this chaos arrives Christopher Whiteley's body.
So there were several deputy medical examiners. Kraus was one, but the other medical examiner is pulling double duty, basically.
And that was Susan Rowe?
Yes, Susan Rowe. So she had her cases, the increase of cases because of COVID, and now they're having to split duties among fewer people because they're down a deputy medical examiner.
Unfortunately, Dr. Rowe declined to speak with Charlie. She no longer works for the Tarrant County Medical Examiner's office. We've also reached out to Dr. Rowe and would love to hear back from her. Do you think that the medical examiner's office was also jumping to conclusions because Hood County had told them it was a mountain lion attack?
Yes and no. So medical examiners are just like people, right? They can be biased by the information they get. And when Hood County calls in and says, hey, we're pretty sure this is an animal attack, that goes on the paper first, and it's hard to change that. From moment one, investigators in Hood County said, oh, this must be a mountain lion, and shut themselves off to any other possibilities, made it very hard to change that track.
It's important to point out, though, that there's no direct evidence that the chaos affected Susan Rowe's ability to correctly perform Christopher's autopsy.
She checked all the boxes she was supposed to check. She followed the procedures that were supposed to be followed, including the washing of the body. At this point, it is a bit of conjecture.
Mm-hmm.
It would be irresponsible for us to say that it definitely had an impact, right?
Right.
But contextually, you have to understand that there's all these scandals swirling. There's all of this extra work to be done. And the fact that Christopher's body comes in, sheriff's deputies already say, we already think it's this. We're going to go ahead and call it. Cool, great, in and out. There were several other examples like that, several other low-profile cases where there was a questionable result from the medical examiner's office during that year or so.
Mm-hmm.
None of them were, on their own enough to make a story. All of them were just, that's interesting, but not news, private deaths, But again, when they start to stack up like that, it's hard for it to not be relevant, by my estimation.
The outside controversies swirling around also might explain why Jonah and his fellow mountain lion expert Mike Bodenchuk found the team of medical examiners to be so defensive and so focused on their public image during that tense meeting in front of Christopher's body. It also could explain why they were so quick to pivot from the initial theory that a mountain lion killed Christopher to their new conclusion that a dog ripped open his throat. When it comes to holiday gift giving, I want to give things people really love. Beautiful, timeless pieces they'll wear for years. That's why I'm going with Quince. From Mongolian cashmere sweaters to Italian wool coats, everything is premium quality at a price that actually makes sense. Quince has something for everyone. Soft Mongolian cashmere sweaters for $50 that look and feel like designer pieces, silk tops and skirts for dressing up, perfectly cut denim for everyday wear and outerwear that actually keeps you warm. We just had our first little cold front in Texas, so I broke out my Quince sweater, and it's so soft, I can't get enough of it. And I know it's about to get a lot more use with the holidays right around the corner. Find gifts so good you'll want to keep them with Quince. Go to quince.com/unforgotten for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. Now available in Canada too. That's QUINCE.com/unforgotten to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/unforgotten. What do you think happened?
When I initially wrote the story, I had an answer in my head of like, I don't know. I do not have enough information to say definitively one way or another. Today, looking back on it, I definitely don't believe that it was a cougar. I think it would be extraordinarily unlikely that it was any other kind of wild animal. But I don't have enough information to say, and I'm not, I am not an investigator, right? I don't have the information to say for sure what it was. So much of this is speculative, right?
Yeah.
But let's go down the mind track that it was murder. How did this person get out there and away? What did they use? I mean, that's the thing that really gave me pause. One of the early record stumps I got back included photographs of Christopher's body. And it is, I've seen a fair share of these kinds of photos before, and it's unlike anything I've seen before. That's one question that I kept bringing to investigators as well of, okay, if this is not a wild animal, what is it? Like that, it's, I don't want to get graphic, but like it's troubling. It's a troubling image. And I go back to when I think about, if I start to go down that path of, well, it must have been murder, that's where I press the pause button. I can't imagine what did that.
Like how a human could have done something like that.
Well, not even just how a human could have done something like that, but like it's not a slice like you would expect from a knife. It's not, the pattern of the wound is not such that I don't know what kind of machinery could have done that.
Did it look like a bite?
No. It didn't look like a bite. It looked like a tear. Like a rip and a tear.
Maybe something that, like if a dog had lunged at his neck, could have just torn it open like that?
Possibly. So that's kind of, again, what you go back to is like, that's not unrealistic either.
You talked to a dog bite expert with Travis County in Austin, Texas.
Yeah.
Who said that it was too big to be caused by a domestic dog.
Yes. And see, this is the thing, is like every time you're like, oh, that could be it, there's someone saying, no, that's not possible.
Yeah.
And you just end up going in circles. I mean, that's a specific reason, because I thought, oh, maybe it was a dog. Let's go find a dog bite expert.
Hi, Dr. Crowns.
Yes.
Here's a quick clip from Charlie's interview for the Dallas Morning News with medical examiner Kendall Crowns.
I'm the deputy chief in Travis County in Austin.
Charlie had sent Dr. Crowns the photos of Christopher's neck wounds.
It doesn't fit for dogs, that's for sure. Usually dogs, when they attack, they kind of go for your extremities and knock you down because dogs usually aren't all that big. And then they rip the hell out of you. And then they don't usually feed from you because, most domesticated dogs aren't looking to eat something. But looking at the pattern of the injuries, it really looks like a bite.
Charlie also asked about the possibility of stab wounds.
It'd be odd that they'd be all located in the neck like that. I mean, people do odd things, and you never know when methamphetamine's involved. To me, it looks like a bite wound, something bigger than a dog.
Gotcha.
So that would rule out coyotes quite quickly. It does not look like a domestic dog at all, but it does look like a big bite mark.
Gotcha.
So that's my feeling, just based on what I've seen and experienced in the past.
Dr. Crowns also didn't think it was a cougar.
It really looks like it's some sort of sharp force injuries. And then, it becomes more of a question of manner of death. You've got sharp force injuries. It could be suicide, accident, or homicide. And that would be based on the scene investigation. I think that's where you get people kind of backing off because they don't know how it happened.
By the way, an interesting little wrinkle to all this is that not long after his interview with Charlie, Dr. Crowns was hired as the chief medical examiner in Tarrant County, replacing Dr. Pirwani. I guess forensic science in Texas is a small world.
It doesn't match anything. I mean, it's too big for a dog bite. It's too big for a mountain lion. This case is something where every time you start to think, oh, that must be it, there's something that pushes you away from it.
It's still just such a mystery to me. I was wondering what Christopher's dad thought about all this. If you'll remember, his name is Robert, and you heard him on the phone with Hood County Sheriff's deputies back in the first episode when he was worried that Christopher was in a ditch somewhere. I found a number and gave it a ring. Hey, Robert, are you the father of Christopher?
Yes, I am.
I asked Robert if he'd be willing to talk with me for the podcast.
For what reason?
Well, because some of his loved ones have questions about how he died and how the sheriff's office handled it.
Oh, I do too, but I mean, this coming December will be 5 years, mister.
Oh, I understand.
So what's he going to do in 5 years? What's he going to do in 5 years? I know his mother's really obsessed about this crap. She tried to do this after his death. The Hood County Sheriff Department wasn't going to do nothing. They considered him as a convict or a felon, and they weren't going to do nothing about it. That's what I gathered from the whole thing. He got released from prison after spending 5 years in there. And after that, he was a convict. He was a felon. They didn't give a crap about him. They didn't give a shit because he was a felon. They weren't going to investigate it.
Well, that's why I'm reporting on it. I think that there might have been
go back and ask them why they didn't report on it, why they didn't do nothing about it. Because, I figured he had his throat sliced, had a dog attack him, make it look like something an animal attacked him. The guy walked off with his dog because they never did find his shirt. If you want to put this in your report, they never did find his shirt. So his shirt had to have plenty of blood on it, had the dog's DNA on it, all that shit on it. So whoever killed him sliced his throat, got the dog attacking, pulled his shirt off of him, and left him for dead. He crawled underneath the tree and died. That's the way I understand it. That's the way I'm going to leave it, mister.
Yes, sir. That's what
You're just uprooting a bad memory right now, and that's all. That's it. Thank you.
Well, hey, before you hang up, so people hang up on me all the time. That just comes with the job. But I was really interested in what Robert said about the sheriff's office supposedly not giving a crap about Christopher because of his criminal background, and maybe that's why they settled on a convenient theory about the mountain lion, and they never really bothered to look deeper. I don't know if that's true or not, but to me it did indicate a lack of concern when I read that sheriff's deputy's report about how they left Christopher's body in the woods overnight when a lion was supposedly on the prowl. Here's what former Sheriff's Lieutenant Johnny Rose had to say.
If we had one little thing that felt like it was a murder, we would have pursued it to the end, because you're dealing with a victim that, he's not always making good life decisions. And it was his deal to walk through wooded areas to take the shortcut to the road and hitch a ride to work. So it's something he did many times, but it just, to me, didn't make any sense. Somebody would have drug him out there, or, caught him there and killed him.
From my brief phone call with him and the interviews that he's given in the press, Johnny seems like a nice guy to me. He's sincere, but I don't think he's right about Christopher cutting through the woods to get to work. I mean, nobody really says that in the body cam footage or the public files or the interviews Charlie and I have done with anybody. And it doesn't really make any sense when you look at the property on a map either. We got into more detail about that in an earlier episode, so I won't rehash it here. Also, it really stood out to me the way that Johnny brought up Christopher's character when explaining why they closed the case.
He's not always making good life decisions.
But that's kind of beside the point, right? Whether you care about Christopher Whiteley or not, an unknown killer is a danger to all of us. And while we're on the subject, what was Christopher really doing that morning when he called his dad, saying there was some kind of emergency? Who were the people with him, and what had he gotten himself mixed up with? If he wasn't killed by a mountain lion, and at this point, I don't think he was, what really happened? Thank you for listening to The Unforgotten. To dig deeper into the story and see photos, case files, and more, check out our newsletter at unforgottenpod.com. The Unforgotten is a free-range production. Season 4, Kill Site, was produced here at Free Range in association with the Dallas Morning News. Editing by Aislinn Gaddis. Sound design and audio engineering from Austin Sisler with Eastside Studios. Charlie Scudder and I are executive producers. Special thanks to Morgan O'Hanlon. Don't forget unforgottenpod.com. See you soon.